नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं
हरि ओम
हरि ओम।
हरि ओम
हरि ओम सर।
हरि ओम।
हरि ओम एवरीवन।
हरि ओम
हरि ओम एवरीवन।
हरि ओम एवरीवन।
Om everyone.
Hari Om, sir. Hari Om, everyone.
हरि ओम।
Okay. Let's start. प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधोऽभिधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्भूतैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. We'll chant from verses 19 to 23. 19 to 23 of chapter 4. Sorry, 18 to 22, my bad. Verse number 18 to 22. कर्मण्यः कर्म यः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्म कृत्. कर्मण्यः कर्म यः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्म कृत्. यस्य सर्वे समारम्भाः कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः. यस्य सर्वे समारम्भाः कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः. त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः. त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः. निराशीर्यतचित्तात्मा त्यक्तसर्वपरिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम् निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्तसर्वपरिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम् यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टः द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समसिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टः द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समसिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते. Okay, welcome back to chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita. We were talking about the inaction of the self. The self is the inactive principle. It's that which facilitates, that which enlivens, that which enables action, but itself has no action. Itself doesn't do anything in a sense. It's not responsible. That's what we mean. It's not responsible. What is responsible is your vasanas. And that doesn't mean you don't need to take responsibility for your actions. You have to take responsibility for your vasanas. You are a dehadhari. You are an embodied being. You have been given a body. But just because you take responsibilities because of your body doesn't mean you completely identify with your body. That's what you're saying. Learn to identify with the self. Learn to see the self beyond the material equipments. That is true spiritual growth. And in fact, that's going to be the theme of today. The next 5 verses. So verse number 11 to 18, which we're going to take up today. Verse number 11 to 18, we're talking about the inaction of the self. Verse number 19 to 23 is going to talk about true spiritual growth or true spiritual evolution in the form of one's perception, in the form of how one views, is able to see the Atman in all things. Right? One who's able to go beyond the body, mind, intellect and acknowledge, notice the Atman beyond. And such a person is not tainted by actions. Such a person, even though they are acting in the world, are unaffected, unimpacted. They are beyond the cycle of karma. Right? Karma affects the body, affects the mind, affects the intellect. Karma affects your vasanas. But one who has become enlightened, one who has gone beyond the cycle of vasanas, they are only exhausting their leftover prarabdha. There's nothing else. They have checked out. It's like they've closed the bank account. I don't want to bank with you anymore. So whatever little money is left, they're just exhausting it. No more transactions. That's the nature. Okay. Before we continue, we take up any questions if there are. Rashmi ji. So I think Rashmi ji's got the crown now. Student of the month. Boliye.
So again, verse 17, the last second paragraph. Actually, an individual's inner conscience and conviction really define actions prohibited to him. As long as his actions follow his conscience and conviction, they do not constitute forbidden actions. So this side of it.
Why? What did you understand out here?
Basically, it's written that an individual's inner conscience and conviction really define actions prohibited to him. And then again, it's written, as long as his actions follow his conscience, they do not constitute forbidden actions.
Yeah.
So, forbidden actions are like, suppose if you want to smoke, or if you want to, for me, if I suppose I love non-veg and I don't want to indulge in non-veg, so that becomes a forbidden action for me, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. Suppose you
Suppose,
love.
yeah, suppose my inherent nature is to have non-veg, but at the same time I know non-veg I should not eat. It's spiritual path. So
Why?
that becomes,
Who said you shouldn't eat? Why
suppose
you?
I suppose I feel I should not eat. My conscience tells me not to eat.
Your conscience tells you not to eat.
Ha. So
Okay.
then does that become
How do
my
you know it's your conscience?
conscience is my inner, the mind, the intellect.
How is it? How do you know it's your conscience? Or
Because it always tells me the boundaries of what not to do.
okay, I'm just prodding something. I'm just trying to.
Yeah. So mind tells me to eat. My intellect tells me not to eat.
No, intellect telling you not to eat and conscience telling you not to eat are two different things.
Okay. So then that's the reason I think I've not understood.
Okay. Good. Where is Anvesha in class today? I think she asked
Yes,
us.
sir, I am in class.
She asked this question at the end of last class. So, what defines forbidden actions? I don't need to say it. If you all just read the text, I don't need to speak only. He said it clearly out here. We talked about this at the end of last class, that forbidden action is not something that is determined by necessarily by any outside force, right? It's not a social norm that determines what is forbidden or non-forbidden. Of course, societies are formulated, and social norms are formulated around values, but there's a high chance that society itself is very hypocritical or very selective in applying those values, or has just degraded those values. So it's a good indicator of what could be, what is valuable and what is non-valuable, but it's not necessarily, in many cases it's not necessarily sort of the right interpretation of it. So what do you have to rely on in terms of determining what to do and what not to do? What should not be done? What is forbidden? You have to rely on, first of all, your buddhi. An individual's inner conscience and conviction really define actions prohibited to him. First of all, conviction. Conviction comes from the intellect. It comes from a clarity of thought. If you don't have a clarity of thought, you won't have a conviction. So clarity of what life is meant for, a clarity of what will be the consequences of certain things and what will not be the consequences of certain things, a clarity of how it will impact oneself and others, a clarity of what impact it will have on one's own body, one's own mind, on one's immediate environment, right? And very often it's not a black and white, it's a gray, right? I wish life was black and white, it's a gray. So you need a sense of proportion. You have class tomorrow at 7 o'clock, but before every class you're awake till 2 a.m. in the morning. No proportion. But you have class at 7 a.m. tomorrow, or on one occasion, maybe it's a friend's birthday or something. So you go for his party, her party. Okay, I'll compromise on my sleep for a couple of hours, one day. Sense of proportion. It's not forbidden. But if you're doing it every day, no proportion. Right? So your clarity of thought will create in you the conviction of what should be done and what should not be done, with a full understanding of what is worth doing, What are the consequences of the actions? What is the impact on my own body and my immediate environment? How will it affect others and how will it affect me? That clarity, that should determine what is forbidden or not forbidden. And where your intellect cannot decide, what is conscience? Conscience, people say it's an inner voice. That inner voice could be your own mind. That inner voice could be your own tantrums. Conscience, and please understand this, conscience is the deepest voice in you. It doesn't speak out of turn. It's not interested in convincing you about anything. Conscience is the voice of the self, in a sense. Your conscience, if you're too caught up in the world, you won't even be able to hear it. It'll be clouded by your preoccupations, your desires, your wishes, your anxieties. If you're too mentally occupied, you'll not be able to access that voice also. That inner voice you're listening to will not be the conscience, it will be your mind. So when is the conscience actually accessible? When you empty yourself. Because the conscience is lying right at the bottom, right in the deepest innermost core of you. And when is that possible? When you have tried to see a situation objectively to the best of your abilities. Means you have tried to apply your buddhi to the best of your abilities, to try to understand something, a situation. And in the rare occasion, your buddhi may not be able to figure it out. Happens rarely. It happened with me once in the ashram, I remember. When I had to decide whether to come back home for some time or not. There was a situation there was an eventuality in the family. And the rule is, you don't leave. The rule is you don't leave. So in the rare occasion where your buddhi can't decide, you listen to that inner voice. And once you listen to that inner voice, you trust it. Right? So that's the conscience. So in the rare occasion where the buddhi is not able to come to a conclusion, you listen to that inner voice and that will tell you should be done or should not be done. And if you keep disregarding that inner voice, it will prick you. It will create a sense of dis-ease. Not because the conscience wants to teach you a lesson or anything. Because when you are not following that inner voice, you yourself will know something is amiss. Kuch to sahi nahi ja raha. The conscience doesn't want to teach you a lesson. It's just like the compass. The conscience is just a compass pointing north. When you see yourself going south, you yourself will realize, oh, I'm not going in the right way. I'm lost. So that's what you call a guilty conscience. So guilt can be felt at a much superficial level also, when your own intellect will tell you, hey, what a silly person you are. But the deepest guilt is, it's a quiet voice inside you that nods you, hey, correct yourself. Correct yourself. And very often we need to reach that deepest voice to actually correct ourselves. We don't listen to the intellect. One more. Chill. Until and unless the actual conscience that pricks us. And then that's why a lot of people, they suddenly make a change. They suddenly make a change in their life, in their lifestyle, in their habits. Actually, the change has been sort of brewing inside them for a long time. Only when they reach that deepest voice within them and it says, what the hell, boss? And then one morning they wake up and they're like, I'm gonna change my life. That change is not immediate. That change is apparent only, immediately. But Actually, it's been brewing inside. There's been a constant conflict. So that voice of the conscience is that deepest voice within you, accessible only once you have crossed objectivity. You have tried to be objective. You have tried to shut out the mind's whims and fancies and try to look at the situation objectively. When that itself doesn't yield a clear answer, what is that voice? Just listen to it. That's the conscience. And that should determine what is vikarma, what is forbidden action. Got it? If it's not sitting with the conscience, it's forbidden. If it's sitting with the conscience, it's not forbidden. Do it. But exercise with caution. The conscience should be the last resort. First resort is buddhi. Don't unnecessarily. They say, no, they don't take the Lord's name in vain. Similarly, don't reach out to the Lord's voice in vain. Conscience is the Lord's voice. Don't take Lord's name in vain. Oh my God. Every little thing, oh my God. What will God do out here? Oh my God. How will India score so many runs and so many balls? Oh my. What has God got to do? People are starting to pray in the stadium. Why are you wasting your prayers on unnecessary things? God is also watching only. What will He do? He's also rooting for Shubman Gill. Oh my God. Don't take the God's name in vain and don't trouble your conscience in vain. First apply your buddhi. 99.9% of the problems will be solved by the buddhi. 0.01, the conscience will take you home. Yes, Ankit and Prachi.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up question on the same topic which you were discussing. So, forbidden action and accessing our conscience and conviction, basically. So, I mean, the more finely honed that ability is, the more concrete, our idea of what is forbidden will be, right? Like someone who's doesn't have that depth of perception to realize that, okay, this might not be correct or something, for him, an action might not necessarily be forbidden. It's like when we spoke about sin is in the reaction, not in the action as such. Right. So basically, what I'm trying to ask is that, only someone who is has a deep idea of what he should or should not do, he'll realize, okay, this is forbidden for me. Whereas someone who doesn't really have that idea, that action won't really be forbidden for him, or he'll have less forbidden.
Yeah. So, look, ultimately, Vedanta relies on the fact that you are responsible for yourself. Right? Nobody's going to nanny you through life. And most of us automatically are law-abiding citizens in that sense. Most of us are within the peripheries of what is permitted. If at all we want to bend some financial laws uh, to save some tax, maximum. That's the only laws we try to, uh, or some of us break some driving laws because you can't be on a highway and drive at 80 kilometers per hour. It's okay. Let the challan come. Why have we taken this car? Okay, I'm not advocating rash driving. Please drive within your limits. Be sensible. But that's the extent to which we break laws. But our point is, you are responsible for yourself. You yourself cause your downfall. You yourself are the catalyst for your own growth. And either you understand what is right and wrong with your buddhi, or you live and learn. You stumble, you make mistakes, right? One who learns from his actions is a fool. One who learns from others' actions is wise, and one who doesn't learn from his own actions is there's no word for it. Uh, so most of us are fools. We're silly folks. Uh, and why we fools? Because there are so many examples in front of us, and we repeat the same mistake which people before us have done. But at least we live and learn. We're silly. But there are a lot of people who don't learn despite their mistakes. Right? And there's no word for them. If you can invent a word, let us know. What would you call such people? I think, I don't know if it was George Bernard Shaw or who, someone used the term bigot. Such people are bigots. They don't have any capacity to think and learn. They're so caught up in their own ways and not even conscious of the lessons they ought to learn through them. So they're bigots. But so was that your question? Like in terms of
No, basically, so my question was that, forbidden action is relative. It's more like, okay, for me, I might realize that drinking is not right. And so for me, it is forbidden. For someone who doesn't have, whose intellect is not telling him that, or whose conscience is not telling him that, for him, like it's not forbidden.
yeah, no. If their
Right.
conscience is not telling them that, it's not that their conscience is not telling them that. They don't have access to their conscience.
Ah,
Their conscience is telling them that, their buddhi is telling them that, but they are disregarding it. So in that sense, if you want to look at it, it is forbidden, but they're not asking. It's like someone committing a mistake but not bothering to ask, oh, am I doing the right thing? If they were to ask their buddhi, the obvious answer would be, don't do it, you silly fellow. Huh? Should I drink and drive today? No one's asking that question. If you're in that state and you have that stupid tamasic buddhi, let's race. It used to happen. I don't know if it still happens. I still remember when around the time we were ending school and a bunch of us had started driving. And luckily I had the awareness that I don't need to do something as silly as this. But people I know used to go on races on Ma flyover. That time it wasn't called Ma flyover, it was called something else. Or it was just called the AGC Bose Road flyover. They used to go on, I don't know, and on the EM bypass. I mean, no one in that state is asking, oh, should I do it or should I not do it? They're just following a herd instinct and they're just following a tamasic thrill. Right? If they were to ask, it would be forbidden. Yeah. Okay. Rituji.
So yes, sir, it's kind of answered. So I just wanted to sort of understand that it's like you said, tamasic. So how much access you have to the conscience is, I guess, if simplistically put, is to do with on which guna scale are you? I mean, where are you on this scale of sattvic to rajasic, let's say? I'm sorry, tamasic on the other end.
And look, forbidden action also depends on your goal in life. As I mentioned in the last class, that depending on who you want to be, what you want to be, what goal you have, in that form, in that sense, your certain things become forbidden to you and certain things are allowed to you. Right? If you want to be, as I said, we use the example of an athlete. If you want to be an athlete, certain foods and certain habits and certain lifestyles are forbidden to you. Right? If you want to be a leader, if you want to be a political leader who truly contributes to society, certain things are forbidden to you. Although usually people see it the other way. The moment I become a political leader, everything is allowed to me. Huh? But the truth is that you have to live a life of service and sacrifice. Why? You have chosen that. If you've chosen that, if that is what you have dedicated yourself to, if that's what your goal in life is, then you have to follow certain disciplines in your life. And to follow those disciplines, certain actions become forbidden, certain actions become, So, in that sense, yes, forbidden action is relative. But all of us need to agree at least on some common bare minimum, right? Those are perhaps the laws of our country. That could be a example of a bare minimum. What should not be done and what should be done, right? Actually, the laws tell us what should not be done primarily, right? I think if so long as we can agree to that, we can coexist as a group, and thereafter, people's specific allowances and forbidden actions come into play. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, verse number 18. कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्म कृत् कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्म कृत्. This translation is a famous tongue twister. He who sees inaction in action and action in inaction. He who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is wise among men. He is a yogi, a doer of all actions. I'm going to read it slowly for you. He who sees inaction in action and action in inaction. Try to say it fast. He who sees inaction in action and action in inaction. Such a person is wise among men. Such a person is a yogi, a doer of all actions. So, all through the Bhagavad Gita, he gives these one-liners and he gives, okay, this person is a yogi. This person is a jnani. Not what you think a yogi is. Not what you think a jnani is. You can know the Bhagavad Gita backwards, but if you don't have this quality, you're not a yogi. You can survive on 300 calories a day and your heart rate might be X, Y, Z and you may be able to do 100,000 pranayams. But if you don't do this, you're not a yogi. The definition, he's giving you a blueprint of a evolved person or a person who's steady on this path. He who sees inaction in action. First of all, one who sees inaction in action. Go back to the idea, the definition of inaction and action we have been using, right? Action is the whole lot of activity that any individual performs. Inaction is the Atman, the enlivening principle that itself is inactive but is enlivening, enabling action. So inaction refers to the Atman and action relates to all our activities. One who sees inaction in action, one who sees the Atman in all actions. Whether someone is crying or someone is laughing, whether someone is doing a good deed or a bad deed, whether someone is helping others or cheating others. Are you able to see inaction in the action? Are you able to see it is just the Atman enveloped by good vasanas or bad vasanas? The Atman enveloped by good vasanas is doing good actions. The Atman enveloped by bad vasanas is doing bad actions. If you have the capacity to see that, you are seeing inaction in action. One who has the capacity to see the underlying enlivening principle, the inactive catalyst that is just enabling a person's nature to express itself. Then you can smile and say, it's just vasanas. Then you will not ever have the question, how did they do this? They did this because of their vasanas. What else? They are the Atman enveloped by vasanas. Their silly Rajasic vasanas makes them greedy. Their beautiful Sattvic vasanas makes them noble, makes them unselfish. Seeing inaction in action. Clear? The capacity to recall, the capacity to acknowledge the Atman beyond the vasanas. That's what he means. You may not know exactly what the Atman is, but the capacity to acknowledge that there is an Atman beyond the vasanas. The capacity to differentiate between the core of a being and the material layers of a being. See, it's a virtue if you're able to go beyond the superficial aspects of an individual and see their inner qualities, isn't it? Huh? Some people will appreciate you. Thank you for understanding me. If you're able to see some of the inner qualities beyond the superficial. So, seeing beyond the superficial layer and acknowledging an inner quality itself is a virtue. Going beyond the inner qualities and acknowledging that beyond the good and bad inner qualities, it's the Atman. That is a spiritual virtue. That's even a greater virtue. So don't judge a book by its cover. That's a virtue. Right? What you see outside, don't make. See, again, chapter 18. The definition of a tamasic person. One who takes a part and sees it as the whole. One who takes a small example and concludes all sorts of things. Means a person will see one occasion. I'll keep using the example of cricket because it's the most natural example that comes to me. One who sees one innings of a batsman and says, "Hey, ye to bekar hai." Huh? One innings. Maybe he's just having a bad day. Yesterday I was showing some friends some old photos and some old things. So when you go through your Facebook timeline back in the day, it's a hilarious thing. It's quite hilarious. So I see a Facebook post from myself in 2019 appreciating Shubman Gill. I feel so happy about it now. I predicted the future. I said Gill has got the patience of a Dravid and the class of a Kohli, the elegance of a Kohli. But if you are someone who just sees one example and dismisses someone, makes a conclusion about someone, you're judging a book by its cover, that's tamasic. So, acknowledging the inner qualities and potential of a being beyond just their outer appearance or a single appearance is a virtue. And what is a greater virtue is to go even deeper, acknowledge that beyond these virtues and vices, beyond these qualities is the Atman, the inactive, Nirguna Atman, that is simply enlivening these gunas.
So basically, सब में भगवान देखना.
सब में भगवान देखना. What we loosely say, सब में भगवान देखना. A bhakt will say, सब में भगवान देखो. What is the Atman? The Atman is the Godhead in you. It's God in you. Tattvamasi, you are God. You are that Atman. You're a God playing the fool. ठीक है, आप अपने आप को भगवान नहीं देख सकते हो, आप दूसरे को भगवान नहीं देख सकते हो. एटलीस्ट शुरुआत करो दूसरे में भगवान देख करके. बाद में आपको पता लगेगा कि वो स्वयं भगवान ही है, हम स्वयं भगवान ही हैं. Big statement of Vedanta. Daring conclusion of Vedanta. Tattvamasi. You are that. You are the Godhead. So सब में भगवान देखो. Recognize the Atman in one and all. The good and bad. Everybody is a God playing the fool. He who sees inaction in action. And action in inaction. And this is a googly. What do you mean action in inaction? It's like saying, take the example of electricity. Looking at any electric appliance and seeing the electricity underlying it. That is seeing inaction in action. You're looking at a light and you're saying that light underlying that light is the inactive electricity that's just enlivening it. That's seeing inaction in action. What does it mean to see action in inaction? To see action in inaction means seeing electricity and seeing the potential of all that is possible with electricity. With electricity, you can heat, you can cool, you can make worlds move. You can convert nothing into everything. Seeing a simple atom and recognizing the potential of nuclear fusion, all the world's energy needs will be solved just by bombarding small atoms and making them fuse. Who would have thought that? Seeing action in inaction, seeing the potential. All this drama, all this Leela, this entire cosmos, this entire creation is just the play on top of the Atman. All this action is based on the inactive Adhar. Sarvadhari. When we have to describe the Atman, when we have to describe God, we say Bhagwan Sarvavyapi hai, Sarvadhari hai, Sabka Adhar hai. It's the substratum, the base of everything. It's that inactive principle on which all action, all the potential action, which you can imagine and not even imagine, everything is taking place. It's the soil on which all the plants are growing. One who sees action in inaction. The idea is one who is constantly connected to the self, one who's all constantly able to remind themselves that beyond all this dreamlike world lies the reality. This is just a movie. All the world's a stage. This is just a fantastic performance. It's a theater. But beyond the theater, beyond the stage, lies the reality. Such a person is wise. Such a person is a yogi. One who is constantly attuned to the Atman is a yogi. Regardless of where he is, what he's doing, who he's engaged with. Such a person is a yogi. A kritsna karma krit, the doer of all actions. In a sense, since all actions are arising from inaction, one who is connected to the inaction, they are the doer of everything. Everything happens upon the inactive substrate. All crops grow from the soil. The soil has nothing to do with what grows, what does not grow. Whatever the seed, so will the crop be. Right? The soil doesn't decide, listen, this seed will turn into a mango, this seed will turn into a banana, this seed will turn into a tomato, this seed will turn into an onion. No, as the seed, so the expression. The soil is simply living it. Every action is happening on the soil. It's the doer of all actions, as it were. It's not responsible for anything. It doesn't determine what is done, but it's the doer in that sense. Kritsna karma krit. So, he who sees inaction, inaction, and action, inaction. Remember this verse as a tongue twister. He who sees inaction, inaction, and action, inaction. Such a person is wise. Such a person is a yogi. Yes, Rituji.
I didn't understand the soil and the seed analogy here. So if you could just once again please explain. And second, sir, it all this very simply put again would be the same thing. I mean, of course, it's another way of saying it. It's just that you are recognizing the Atman in everyone is a yogi. In short. Right?
I'll answer your second question first.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
As also someone said, it's all Sankhya Yoga. Yes, it's all Sankhya Yoga. But I don't know why people want it in short. I want it in long. I want to keep seeing it from different angles. I want Pratipaksha Bhavana of this Sanatana Dharma. I want different ways of seeing this thing. So let me let the cat out of the bag for the nth time. There are maybe 10 or 12 ideas, core ideas, and maybe a few related ideas, extensions from those 10 or 12 ideas, not more, in the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to keep coming back to the same thing. Had Arjuna got the message, the Bhagavad Gita would have ended with chapter 2, right? But because he's wanting and needing more, just like you and I, we need more than just a simple line or two to understand something. We need to be constantly coached. We need to be constantly explained. We need to clarify. We need to make mistakes, stumble, and learn. Similarly, the Lord is simply repeating the same ideas in a various facets, right? Yes, the underlying principle is seeing the Atman. But the problem is, if it was so easy, if you could just understand it by a single line, oh, see the Atman in all beings, then the Lord would have just kept saying that. The problem arises because we don't understand what is the Atman. So in these 4-5 verses, he's calling the Atman inaction. He's calling the Atman inactive principle. He's calling the Atman the enlivening principle. Elsewhere, he'll call it something else. So, but this just gives us a new vocabulary. This just gives us a new way of thinking about it. Soil and the seed analogy. So the soil and the seed analogy is like inaction and action. The soil is inactive, means it does not grow in itself. It does not cause anything to grow. It does not want anything to grow. It's not happy if something grows. It's not unhappy if something else grows. The farmer may be unhappy or happy, but the soil is unaffected. Whatever is there in the soil will grow. Whatever seeds are there in the soil will grow. So all actions, as it were, are like plants that sprout out of seeds. Just like all actions sprout out of vasanas, all plants sprout out of seeds. Vasanas are the seed, actions are the plants. Expression of those seeds. The soil is simply enabling it. Without soil, nothing can grow. But soil does not want anything to grow. Soil does not wish for anything to grow. Soil is not happy with what grows. Soil is not unhappy with what grows. This is not a perfect example. Why? Because the type of soil determines what can grow and how good it can grow. Right? But you can't expect a carrot plant to grow into a tree, right? That depends on the nature of the seed. You can't expect a mango tree to remain small. Of course, some people cruelly do bonsai and all of that, keep it small. That's a different thing. I've seen a tangerine tree, or an orange tree, so small. Literally, chutku oranges in it. It's cute. That's what it is. But if you think about it, it's very cruel. How they do bonsai. They keep cutting the roots so that the plant is not able to grow. So conceptually, it's a very cruel thing to do. But the idea is that the soil does not determine how big a plant necessarily grows. Fundamentally, it's the nature of the plant that will determine whether it will remain small like a carrot or big like a mango, right? Growing carrots is also very fascinating. Sometimes the top can be very bushy, but niche you'll see carrot is so small. You think, which one should I? See, carrots are very interesting. How do you harvest carrots? I didn't ever think I'll talk about harvesting carrots in Vedanta class. Other fruits and plants you can see in front of you. Oh, the tomato looks ripe, let's pluck it. The banana looks good, let's pluck it. The mango looks nice and juicy, let's do it, let's pluck it. Carrots, how do you see? It's under the ground. Potatoes also. Potatoes, you are able to see, okay, it's done. The plant is done. The leaves will start turning brownish and stuff like that. So you'll be able to say, okay, the plant is done. But carrots, sometimes the top is, nice and bushy. Nietzsche uses the carrot as chutku. How did this happen? Sometimes you see the plant is very small, but the carrot inside is like big. It's very tricky to harvest carrots. That's fun. Everyone should do some amount of gardening in their life at some point. Anyway, soil and plant. Inaction in action. Get it? Get the analogy? Okay. Verse number 19. Verse number 90 to 23 now moves into a phase of talking about how a person who is in this state, how a person who is a yogi, one who sees action in inaction and inaction in action, one who's got this worldview and the associated qualities, such a person is free, such a person is liberated, such a person has gained freedom, enlightenment. Verse number 19. Yasya sarve samarambhaha कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः यस्य सर्वे समारम्भाः कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः. He whose undertakings are free from desire and expectation, whose actions are burnt by the fire of knowledge, him the wise call a sage. So, extending from the previous verse, who is a yogi? Who is a sage? Who is a panditaha? There's a difference between a pujari and a pandit. If you ask Kabir, who is a pandit? What does Kabira say?
पोथी पढ़ पढ़
पोथी पढ़ जग भया.
हाँ, आगे बोलो.
पंडित भया न होए, ढाई अक्षर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित होए.
ढाई अक्षर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित होए. One who knows the 2.5 letters of P, R, Ma. Why is it dhai? Ever wondered why it's dhai? If you understand why it's dhai, you understood Sanskrit. Half P, full R, full Ma. So 2 letters, R and Ma, half a P, dhai akshar prem ke. That's all it is.
But sir, did Kabir know Sanskrit at all?
I'm sure they must have had a background. I don't know. He, of course, had his own regional language, but all of the foundation is, I don't know how else he must have studied the scriptures. So, just like you and I, have you done Sanskrit at all? No. But we are still accessing the scriptures through Sanskrit, right? And we are accessing it in its original form. So, dhai akshar prem ke padhe so pandit hoye. So, who is a sage? Who is a pandita? One whose undertakings are free from desire and expectation. Desire means no personal motive. One has turned desire to duty. One has aligned action with duty. Duty means what do I ought to do based on my nature and based on my vasanas. What do I ought to do out here? What's my purpose? Based on the roles that I have been given, assigned, or I have taken up. So aligning action to duty versus desire. One whose undertakings are free from any personal motive. One who's turned their lives into a spirit of service and sacrifice towards the various roles they are playing. And without expectation. Not longing for the outcome. Having developed a spirit of surrender. That let me do my part to the best of my ability and not worry about the outcome. This is Karma Yoga, classic Karma Yoga. We spent an eternity discussing this. One whose undertakings are free from desire and expectations. And the second stage of Karma Yoga is one whose actions are burned by the fire of knowledge. So as you progress on the path, your various karmas, your various propensity to act, your various desire to get into actions and the samsara that comes out of them, they all are burned by the fire of knowledge. Knowledge purifies you from most of your ignorance. Knowledge purifies you and simplifies your life. As a young, immature person, you thought you had to do hundreds of things. Maturity comes when you realize just 2 or 3 things are sufficient in life. Maturity comes when you realize I'm done. I don't need anything else. all your actions and anticipations and expectations and wishes, your wish list becomes. The secret to life is not having a bucket list and a wish list. And the secret to life is realizing that you don't need a bucket list. One who's not chasing anything. Now see, it's very difficult to explain this because tamas mimics sattva. Even a tamasic person is not chasing anything. Even a tamasic person has no wishes. Even a tamasic person has no expectations. Tamasic person is living like a log, like a stone. It's very difficult because tamas mimics sattva. But what we're talking about is a sattvic quality. What we're talking about is a person who's done with all the hallar phallar, as they say, hallar phallar, who's done with the din and roar of the marketplace, who's developed a higher purpose in life, whose actions are burnt by the fire of knowledge. Fire has burnt away all sorts of imaginations of what they wish to do and need to do and have to do and has to get done. You become a simpler person. The more spiritual you turn, you become a simpler person. Lesser complications in your head. Such a person the wise call a sage. Not anyone. Not you and me. You and me call a sage to anyone. Yeah. Anyone who wears an ochre robe and will wear a mala, oh Panditji, Panditji, Panditji. So you and me call a sage, call anyone a sage. But who do the wise call a sage? Who do the truly accomplished call a sage? Who do people who have true insight call a sage? The wise call such a person a sage. Buddhaha, the wise, call such a person a evolved soul. So you and me fall for the spiritual marketplace. Any new reel we see of a new person talking along these lines, there's a problem in our country. We turn anyone into an idol, we turn anyone into a guru. I'm not saying any of these people are wrong, including myself. I'm not saying any of these people are wrong. I'm talking about our tendency to turn anyone into to deify anyone and everyone. And some smart Alex, some blokes take advantage of that. Sit under a tree and close your eyes. Before you know it, you'll have a following. But who do the wise call a sage? Who does Krishna call a sage? Who does Kabira call a sage? These are the virtues of a person worthy of being called a sage. We'll continue in the next class. The next 3-4 verses are related, so we'll take it up properly with a clear mind in the next class. There's no point in rushing through them.
So you've always said that Vedanta is no moral science,
Yeah.
like the Christianity, where they say that this should not be done. So then why, sir, here?
I'm not saying, I didn't ever use the word Christianity. And those who truly know the depth of certain Christian values, they'll understand that even that is not a moral science necessarily.
But then why, sir, Bhagwan is talking here about forbidden action? That is moral science only.
No. We interpret forbidden as moral science. That's our interpretation. The Lord is not saying, He's not telling you, oh, follow this list to understand forbidden action. Why is it forbidden? Very interesting question to ask, very worthy question to ask. Why is something forbidden? Not because some, God has decreed, oh, this is a good thing to do and this is a bad thing to do. It's something is forbidden based on whether it is beneficial or detrimental. And beneficial for what? Primarily beneficial to one's spiritual well-being. So if certain actions are beneficial to one's spiritual well-being, why? Because your purpose, my purpose is to grow spiritually. That's the point of this birth. Right? So if something is beneficial to our purpose, it is permissible. Or at least if it's not detrimental to our purpose, it's permissible. Something that is detrimental to our purpose. Selfish action is detrimental to our purpose. Attachment is detrimental to our purpose. That's why it becomes forbidden. Now, do you have the buddhi to understand that or not is a different question.
So this is very superficial, that you should not do this, that is forbidden. Attachment is forbidden. My God.
Huh?
Attachment is forbidden. You just said it, just struck me. My God.
If you know me, I'm a rebel in that sense. Huh? If you tell me not to do something, I'll do it. If you know some of the details of my life, you will not call me a Vedanta teacher. Nothing. I've not done it. I've not broken any laws. But one of the reasons why Krishna is my Ishtadevta is because he's constantly
laws.
bending the laws. Because he's giving us a new interpretation that forbidden doesn't mean ye karo, ye mat karo. It's an inherent understanding of, is this taking you closer to your purpose? And based on your purpose, based on your conviction, the path will be very clear to you. Right? Things automatically become forbidden when you take up a certain journey in life. Now, have you taken up that journey or not is the question. Otherwise, we'll live our lives doing forbidden things, thinking that they're fine. Right? So this idea of forbidden doesn't come from a moral science. And when I say Vedanta is not a moral science, it doesn't mean moral science is wrong. I'm saying seeing things from a lens of moral science is a very limited lens. This is a far deeper lens. We're talking about a deeper spiritual journey, not just a social sort of value, right? Ultimately, one's morals are very, very important. But when you talk about moral science, they try to create a sense of guilt and right and wrong, and it's a different way of looking at it. Yeah, we're trying to reach out to a deeper narrative, right? Yeah. Any other questions?
I think so. Most of us have
So,
very wrong knowledge about forbidden action. We don't know what is forbidden.
Indeed. And that's what he says. You must know what is action, means what you should do,
What you should not do.
know what you should not do, and you must always also see the inactive principle beyond all actions. If you can do all these three, you're a sage, you're a yogi. If you must have a sattvic intellect to know what to do and what not to do, and beyond that, to see the inactive principle beyond all action. And no one is going to tell you what to do and what not to do. So stop relying on others, including your teachers, including your parents, including any teacher, any parent can only communicate values, can only communicate virtues which will help you make your own choices. Any teachers or guides or can help you learn from their experience and communicate to you tools which may be beneficial to you. But ultimately, the choices you have to make for yourself, the thinking you have to do for yourself. But most of us don't think so much. We come, we eat, we grow, we get diseased, and we die. Finish. Mundane life. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Any sage will say, all the best. These questions have to be asked by you, by me, by the student. Knowledge is taken, not given. Any other questions? If not, thank you so much, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. So have a good weekend. and we'll continue our discussion. Some beautiful verses coming up, and the next section, the 12 yajnas, is magic. It's beautiful, fantastic. If I were you, I'd not miss this section of the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll see you in
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.